Yeah, let's try that. I mean, let's try that applaud thing because we're kind of out of the habit of reacting, yeah? Can we thank all our service participants who have made this possible and everybody who was here? There were people here before 8 a.m. this morning, folks. For some of us that can't even imagine putting on clothes before, 10 anymore on Sundays. This is a big thing. So it is such a blessing to have each and every one of you here. I cannot say that enough, but I will stop saying it. Whether you are on campus or on your own screen this morning, we are so glad to have you as part of our gathering. And I will say it is a real balm to me to see all of you. It feels a little bit like an Easter miracle, honestly. They were all gone, and now they're all back. It's such a gift, and it's coming in its own way. A small form of resurrection, this coming together as an embodied presence. I think that we truly have learned, as Jesus' followers learned in the story, that they can still get the benefits of their teaching, his teachings, even without his physical presence. And we've learned over this last year that we can still be a community even when we aren't gathered in this way, and we have learned how precious it is to be able to gather this way. We can still love and care for one another. We can still experience joy and sorrow together, but we are very grateful to know now how much we need one another. And like the ancient Jewish people, we are the ones who have woken in the morning to find that our homes have been passed over, at least so far. We need to still keep being careful. We need to still keep being faithful to science and to our care for one another. We find that we have been spared the great plagues of loss and injustice. Like Jesus' followers, we are ones who have remembered to gather. Maybe we're just a remnant now. In the weeks and gatherings to come, we will know that there are people who were with us a year ago that are not with us now, and we will still carry their memory among us. We gather with what all survivors carry when they arrive: relief, grief, which is as much a part of us now as our smiles, guilt that we are here and others are not, wearied hope, fearfulness, and a deep joy that needs to be expressed, a deep gratitude. And all of this we honor. And we honor this in light of all who are with us and those who have left us, not only because of the end of life, but also because they have moved out of our area through climate change and also through the economic realities which have gripped us also as a people. And we celebrate the small joys, like the return this weekend to our community of our oldest member, Beverly Borton, who is traveling this weekend back to be in Walnut Creek again. There is so much to hold, and it is joy and sorrow wove fine, as the poet Robert Blake said. Though this is not necessarily a year for new Easter finery, it is a time to show off those things that we found when we cleaned the closets, right? Yeah, that's always good. Those things perhaps left to us by someone beloved, now departed, that can find new life in us. We are a wiser people than the ones who gathered, just as Jesus' followers in the story were wiser than they were before that stone was rolled in front of the cave. We are really, truly learning what it means to celebrate rebirth. The Reverend Dr. William Barber reminded us in his Easter sermon last year that for there to be resurrection, there must truly be death, and we are aware of that today. And yet, Easter celebrates the new life, and we are wiser to appreciate that here today, to recognize that we must come into this new time as people carrying the lessons of what we have learned, lessons about what makes us joyful, and also about the injustices we must still address. There are a million little things that we will celebrate now. Just what it's like to share a beautiful morning like this with other people, what it's like to be able to touch another person's hand or give them an embrace, what it's like to be just in the presence of things so ordinary, like lilies and flowers and people, everything so wonderful, so precious. And if we are attentive and mindful to what's important and what we've learned, then perhaps these days don't seem so impossible. It is important that we now learn just the right number of truths, what is important and what we know now, the larger truths of how precious we are, each of us, to one another. Just take a moment and look around. And if you're on your screen, just picture in your mind some of the people who are in your heart today. This is the thing that we have to remind ourselves again about each Easter. If we look around now, we can see that the daffodils, their stems are still here, but their blossoms have already faded this year. We can see that the beautiful flowering trees are flowering. By next week, their petals will be gone, and next winter, their limbs will be bare again. And yet, they will return again and again each Easter. We understand anew, as people who have now been the survivors of things we could not have imagined, what it's like to have hope reborn anew. And in this Easter day, this day of rising up again, this coming back together, this day of searching for hope and spirit, we know what it's like to recommit ourselves to hope in these times. It is a very large thing. We have traveled, my friends, so far since we were last gathered together. Some of us have never gathered together with us, are new among us on this campus, though they've been joining us on these screens for many months. This is the place where we remember that you can, no matter what, roll away that stone, see the light beginning to come around the edges, because that's just what this is. This isn't the destination where we want to be. This is just the light beginning to come in, a little freedom, a little space, a little new air, a little new company. It promises great things to come. We receive it all with great gratitude. Just as each year the blades of grass will poke up, our hope will be renewed as long as we sustain it in this community of memory and hope of turkeys and peacocks. I began this service in gratitude, and I will end my reflection in gratitude for each of you, showing up as you can and as you must, showing up with full hearts and tender hearts, showing up to renew that divine spark of hope in each other. Blessings on all of you, and happy Easter.